All right, well, now we're getting into the meat of quadratic equations, and we're in chapter section 4-3, solving quadratic equations by factoring. And here in example 1, which is on page 238 in the textbook, which we'll get to in just a moment, we're asked to translate sentences into equations. Now, let's first start here. Now, what we're really trying to do is take a sentence and put it into quadratic form. And here we see what quadratic standard form looks like. This we covered this here in a previous chapter section, but I've got ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now, the a, this ax squared, this a is the quadratic coefficient, and I'm just going to put quad co, and the b is the linear coefficient, what we call the linear coefficient, and c is our constant. Now, if we are given the roots of a quadratic equation, we can take those roots and put that into this form, x minus p, with p being one of the roots, and x minus q, with q being a second root. And we can take that by using the FOIL method and write or translate a sentence into a quadratic equation, and that quadratic equation being in standard form. So let's take a look at what we got here. So we're being asked to write a quadratic equation in standard form with 3/4 and -5 as its roots. And it starts off with one that's a little bit more difficult. And we'll look at one that's maybe a little bit easier here in just a moment. Now, so I'm told that I've got a root of -3/4 and I got a root of -5, and I'm just going to plug it into these two equations and then FOIL that to come up with my quadratic equation. So let's start here. So I got x minus 3/4, and then I've got x minus -5. And of course, this minus -5 is going to end up being a +5. Now, let's just FOIL. So first, and if you're having trouble with FOIL, we got a FOIL video out here in this chapter. So review it. So I go x times x, that's first, f for first, and I've got x squared. And then the outer FOIL, F-O-I-L, let me just write that right there. All right, so I do my outer term. So I go x times +5, because I got that -5. So I've got +5x. And then I've got the inner terms, the -3/4 and the x. Well, that gives me a -3/4x. And let's see, then lastly, I've got -3/4 times +5. So I multiply the -3/4 times the +5, and I'm going to end up with -15/4. Okay. Now we're going to combine like terms. So I've got x squared plus, let's see, so I've got 5x, and I'm going to be combining that with a -3/4x, so I got to take this 5x and get a common denominator of 4, so that's going to be 20x over 4 minus 3/4, oh, I should put my x, 3/4 x minus 15/4. And now we're going to combine the like terms. Let me get rid of that. I should put that right there. So I end up here with x squared plus 17/4x minus 15/4. Now, that's got me close to where I want to go. But for quadratic standard form, I cannot have any rational numbers, I need integers. And that means I'm going to need to multiply every term in what I have thus far by 4 so I can cancel all these denominators. So I'm going to go up here, and we're going to set this up this way. I'm going to say 4 well, let's see, there we go. 4 times x squared plus 4 times 17 over 4x plus, should be a minus 4 times 15 over 4. So when I do that, I'm going to have 4x squared. Now here, my 4's are going to cancel. 4's going to cancel here, my 4's going to cancel here. And also when I multiply this, my 4's are going to cancel. So I'm going to be then left with plus 17x minus 15. And we're going to set that equal to 0. And there we go. We have translated a sentence into an equation, a quadratic equation. And it's 4x squared plus 17x minus 15. All right, so now let's look at a second example of this where we're to translate sentences into a quadratic equation in standard form. And this time we've got write a quadratic equation in standard form with the given roots of 3, negative 4. So now remember, I'm going to set it up in this form, x beginning by x minus 3 times x minus negative 4. And of course, this negative situation is going to create a positive right here. Now I'm just going to FOIL this. So I've got first terms, x times x is x squared. And x times positive 4 is going to give me plus 4x. That's my outer terms. My inner terms, the negative 3 and the x, multiply those together. I got negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 4 is going to give me negative 12. Now I just need to combine the like terms. And so here I've got the two terms I'm going to combine are right there, the 4x and the negative 3x. And so I've got x squared plus x minus 12. And we've taken where we've been given the roots of 3 and negative 4 of a quadratic equation, and we have written it in standard form when I put this equal to 0. All right, that one's not nearly as bad as the first one we did. Keep this for reference. Help you.